The Empty Room by Wanderer D. Chapter 19. Nightmare Moon watched the procession make its way down the castle, waiting until her sister had assumed her seat before signaling Rainbow Dash and the others that it was time to begin. Allowing her sister, despite the Sun Goddess's claim of equality between the sisters, to be seated first gave the impression of deference and slight submission. However, the impressive display of acrobatics from the Shadow Bolts would make it look like she was being her usual, overly theatrical self. Both actions would be appreciated by the older sister, showing Nightmare Moon to be one with respect for her elder, while not being too shy as to grab all the attention she could. In short, a give and take which her sister would find mightily amusing and slightly comforting. As long as Nightmare Moon fit into Flair's expectations, she would be less suspicious. The Galicorn forced herself to be impassive as the Solar Nightmare spoke to the crowds and then called for Lyra to be brought into the gallows. The Black Galicorn had little knowledge of the musician besides what she had glimpsed from her brief encounter, and some would call the Nightmare a fool for entrusting somebody so easily with a task of such importance. But within Lyra's eyes she saw an honest mare with more than enough willpower to pull it off. Even if the unicorn was easily distracted by her belief in the way things ought to be. Giving her the means to stop Nightmare Flare and further Nightmare Moon's plans was risky to say the least. But she had faith in the unicorn. There was a chance Lyra didn't have the magical fortitude to pull off the spell. It was involved tremendous emotional stress, and if the unicorn failed, well, even then she had a backup plan. For now, she had her own part to play. Hopefully, the musician had mastered the melody thoroughly, or there would be no stopping Nightmare Flare from hanging the unicorn. When Lyra asked for permission to play for the queens, the Black Alicorn advised caution with a little shake of her head, earning a smile from the overconfident sister. The Black Alicorn wasn't surprised by her sister's confidence. She was, however, when Flare made the task easier as he dragged forward two members of the Council of Nightmares from the crowd to be hanged by alongside Lyra. Nightmare Moon hid a smile. Celia had always been one for shifting the playing field to her advantage. When Lyra started playing, the Black Alicorn immediately knew her faith in the musician had been rewarded. Already for the first few notes she could see Nightmare Flare reacting. It wasn't long before Twilight Spark noticed something was wrong and ordered their bodyguards to attack. Moon frowned as every pony exploded into action around her. Rainbow Dash and Sword rushing to meet Spitfire. Jade and Twilight heading straight for Twilight Spark. Misty and Blast crashing almost immediately with one of the shadow creatures in the air, while Applejack and Big Macintosh intercepted another. Lyra's melody was as strong as she hoped it would be. The Alicorn spared a moment to look down at the mint-green unicorn. She could feel so much pain, so much anguish coming from her. The Nightmare felt a sudden pang from what she was putting the musician through. But the plan was working, and that's what really mattered. On the other balcony, Nightmare Moon could see Flare, paralyzed by the melody the Sun Queen hadn't heard for more than 1,000 years. The music pried open her mind's eye, revealing to her memories of happier times, even as the spell, woven into notes, created a crack in Nightmare Flare's defenses. The music would have continued for as long as possible for it to complete its task. But her own task beckoned. Taking flight so she could see her objective more clearly, Nightmare Moon extended her magical senses to encompass herself and her sister. She knew her task would not be easy. She began weaving magic around her sister's aura first, probing and enveloping it with her own in a way that she would never have tried under other circumstances. It was an incredibly intimate and possibly uncomfortable thing to do to a magic user. Nightmare Moon watched carefully as Nightmare Flare remained static, eyes filling with recognition as memories began to surface. Soon, sister, you will be free. What will you think then? How will you deal with what I had after returning from being a nightmare the very first time? The Black Alicorn's eyes darkened at the sight of her sister trembling. The worst is yet to come, Sadie. You'll have to face your decisions. You'll have to deal with the responsibility of laying the nightmare loose. Just like I do, every day and every night. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed one of the shadow monsters flying her way. Nightmare Moon gritted her teeth angrily. Under normal circumstances, she could take care of the creature easily, but this task required the utmost care and attention. Without taking her eyes off a nightmare flare, she telekinetically grabbed a hold of the shadow chimera and held it writhing in place. It would not do for her to lose her concentration over so trivial a creature. Nightmare Flare grinned. Lyra hadn't even batted an eye when she ordered 2 more ponies to the noose. She nodded at the musician, and with the briefest of acknowledgments, the unicorn started strumming her lyre. The melody started slow, almost hesitant, but as the notes reached her, it awakened something deep in Nightmare Flare's heart. Nostalgia. This melody. How? She stammered. Stop it! Stop it! She thought furiously, feeling her defenses fall as the melody continued. The unicorn did not stop playing, and the white alicorn felt her body sway slightly to the music. This is Requiem of the North. How did she... Realization struck her. Nightmare Moon. It had to be her. She betrayed me! Despite her best efforts, the solar nightmare felt herself being pulled into memories. Celestia stood by herself in the room that once belonged to her daughter. Despite the presence of a crib, books, a small table, and toys, the room felt completely empty. The lack of life making the absence of her loved ones all the more pronounced as she stared at the horn on the floor. Twilight's horn was slightly burnt at the tip. The bottom part cracked and splintered. Oh, Twilight, she sighed. In the search for my first child, I got my second daughter killed, she said, looking tenderly at her horn. I never told you, Twilight, how much you meant to me, how much myself, and especially Luna, I saw in you. You're such a beautiful filly, mind and body. So innocent, but still so brave. She raised the purple unicorn as her own from the moment she took her in as a personal protege. Twilight's education in arcane arts was one of many skills and knowledge the princess had imparted on her. She taught the unicorn how to behave in court, how to approach nobles and common citizens alike. Under the unicorn's watchful eyes, the studious Twilight grew into a flying mare. True, the purple unicorn had been a bit withdrawn, but she had finally made friends. It had been Twilight, with just a bit of encouragement, who had gathered the bearers and brought back her sister, Luna. I owe you so much, my Twilight, the princess whispered. And now you are gone, and I have to accept that. I will find the ponies behind this, and they will pay! She stared at the empty room for a moment, before sighing in resignation. But that will not bring you back. At least I know death is kind, even if it is a bit odd. But how can I go on right now, my faithful student, when you will not be by my side again, when your reports will not come to me and break the monotony of the court, when the actual joy of you being alive and part of my life is gone? Celestia lowered her head to her host. And yet I must. For if not I, who? I only have this night to mourn you. Then, when the time comes for the sun to rise, I have no choice but to return to my duty and raise it from its slumber. I cannot show this to anyone. I cannot be open or honest or fragile. Even dear Luna needs to see me to be strong for her sake. I fear to become spoiled by student. For in the last 2 decades, not only did I get my sister back, I had you. You can have her again. A voice whispered almost in her ear, making it twitch. Who's there? Celestia asked. She quickly stood up and glared around the room, searching for the origin of the voice. Don't you mean Hal? The voice whispered back. Celestia clenched her mouth shut as she looked around carefully. There was no way any pony could have crossed her field, so who? Not who, the voice whispered again. How? How can I get her back? How can I get my daughter back? Show yourself, Celestia growled. Turn around. Yes, you can see me there. The voice directed as she looked at one of the walls. There seemed to be some pony there. She approached carefully until she stood, staring. That's not you. Yes, it is. The voice said again. As he saw the pony in front of her mouth the words, just as she mouthed the words she had said earlier. You are not me. Celestia insisted, staring at the mirror. You are drifting from what really matters. But if you must know, her image replied, I am your inner voice. I am the power within yourself to bring Twilight Sparkle back to life. That can't be done, Celestia replied accurately. If you were me, you would know. I am, and that's how I know it to be possible. The princess shook her head. The voice was seductive. Could it be as her mirror image suggested? If there was a chance to bring Twilight back. There is, the voice insisted, her thoughts betraying her. You know it, just as well as you know your love for that filly. It is not right for her life to be cut so short. That was he was just trying to help you. We know, don't we? That was unfair. That was uncalled for. The broken horn, not even half the size of Celestia's own, floated in front of the mirror now, spinning lazily, held by an unseen force. Yes, Celestia admitted. She was so young. She felt tears in her eyes and was about to fight them, but there is no need to hide your tears from yourself, her mirror image said. Her voice was heavy with kindness. Who is there to impress? Who is there to see you a tiny bit sad, fragile? You are alone. Not even our dear daughter is here to see us. Our sister has to hold the fort for now until we bring Twilight Sparkle back. She is strong. She can handle it. But Twilight Sparkle needs us. She needs us to do what she needs to be done. She needs us to use our magic and power to bring her back. For her. We should do it for her. But how? Celestia finally asked. How can I bring her back? Find me. What? The Alcorn blinked. Where can I find you? I am within you. I am a spark within you. You never needed me before, because you have not loved so much before. Within me. Celestia closed her eyes and turned her attentions inward. She searched deep, going deeper than she had ever gone before. Everything was light, like being under direct sunlight. I can't find you! I am here, the voice whispered. You already know me. Look beyond. The Alcorn's gaze returned to her horn as her thoughts raced in her mind. Was Twilight's life worth it? Yes, she had decided. There was no doubt about that. Every thought of her deceased pupil brought pain to her heart. She might not have brought her into this world, but Celestia and Twilight were as close as any family. What type of pony would she have to be to let this little unicorn come to harm? Nothing, since losing Luna had made her feel so powerless and trapped by rules set down by herself. Let so many others die. She has selflessly fought to keep a balance in the world, to keep Equestria safe at incredible personal costs. Each death of a loved one chipped away at her soul and sapped her determination over thousands of years of meeting and allowing ponies into her life. Her subjects expected her to be above such little things as feelings. She was immortal and wise and powerful after all. Surely she would get over it. True, she was immortal, and it was true that the average lifespan of a pony went so quickly. But she lived with them every day and night. Her subjects, her friends, lovers, students, colleagues, they all left their mark, and they enjoyed every single second of their lives, grieved for each death. And out of all of them, a single, most studious unicorn shone like a beacon in happiness in her life. A unicorn she had feared she would lose eventually, but not without a fight. It could be called selflessness, but she didn't care. Celestia looked, and she searched, till she got to the edge of the light, where the shadows at the absolute edge of her subconscious were. She stopped. She should be careful. It was easy to forget she was not. Princess! A voice she easily recognized called from within. Twilight? Princess, I'm scared. I can't see anything. There's something pulling me away. Don't worry, Twilight. Princess. Twilight's voice seemed to fade into the distance. Twilight! Celestia shouted, plunging into the darkness. Where are you? She's almost gone. Her mirror voice shouted. Release your inner power. Celestia felt it. A shell of some sort, floating in the darkness. Her horn started to glow as she charged towards it. Twilight, I'm coming! She knew this was a bad idea. She would kill to protect Twilight. She admitted to herself. She never wanted to live through the death of someone she loved so much. She would betray herself and cause untold levels of destruction, if only it would bring back her beloved student. She would hurt whoever stood in her way in Twilight's return, because she was tired of losing those she had loved so much. Because she was tired of being selfless to the point of losing herself. Her horn struck the shell. It did not budge. Her own mind subconscious fighting against her. There are very few things she would not do for Twilight Sparkle. She would make those things right. She would get back to her daughters. The alicorn reared back. It struck the shell again. This time it cracked, and magic and power poured out in a torrent that flew her out of her mindscape and into reality. Princess Celestia snapped out of her meditation, glaring at the horn. How dare any pony hurt Twilight? What type of monster would murder a sweet unicorn? They should be punished! Something inside her stirred. Her body shook with adrenaline and energy. Slowly, tendrils of power began to wrap around her, solidifying into armor. Something inside her pulsed with energy. Celestia grasped with the thrill of magic unlike anything she had ever felt before. I am ready to come out to the world, to teach my enemies to never threaten my loved ones. She shook her head. Twilight came first. The severed horn was enveloped with energy. It levitated until it floated at eye level. Twilight. Celestia whispered as her magic turned the horn around and used it to carve a deep gash in the alicorn's shoulder, allowing the blood to flow and cover it. The magic coursing through her body immediately healed, not even allowing her to register pain. The blood-covered horn lit up, with a drizzle of magic inside, giving off sparks of light in tandem with Celestia's heartbeat. The princess concentrated. She needed all her precious memories of Twilight. She remembered the unicorn's early childhood, where she would be pushy and unintentionally rough when she wanted something, especially any of the books she loved. She remembered the little filly playing with Spike, tossing pillows around and teasing him in her room until the whole place was wrecked. She remembered the lessons of magic she had taught Twilight, her darker inner self conjuring the lectures on combat magic to the forefront. Celestia tried to put it in perspective. She had warned Twilight to be very selective in using them. But not anymore. I won't lose her again. As she came to her darker self, Celestia found herself struggling to bring positive memories to the fore of her mind. Slowly, the ghostly silhouette of a unicorn formed from the severed horn. Her body needs to be stronger, to withstand attacks that will leave any other pony crippled. The alicorn groaned, fighting to make sense of what she should do, what her inner self was saying. The mane formed, falling around the horn in Twilight's usual mane style. Her horn should be deadlier, longer. She should be able to skewer an enemy. While reinforcing the muscles, the nightmare grinned. Twilight will never lose again. She will never leave me. Celestia continued watching in silence as the process continued. The cub became visible, darker than she remembered. She frowned. Am I doing something wrong? No, she told herself. It is not wrong. She's darker, yes, but that will give enemies pause. She is taller and stronger, much more powerful than before. The key mark slowly came into view on her flank. The straight lines of the stars twisted, almost like wavy blades. That's not right, Celestia said, confusion showing in her now dragon-like eyes. It looks strange. Her magic is stronger, she reasoned. It's natural for a cutie mark to change a bit to reflect that. When she opened her eyes, lavender and red irises regarded nightmare flare as the alicorn's regalia molded around her new form. Celestia smiled at the sight of a breathing, living Twilight. Welcome back, my daughter, the nightmare said as the last vestiges of the old Celestia faded into her subconsciousness. The newly resurrected unicorn nuzzled the alicorn. It's good to be back, Mother. She snapped back to the present, thankful for the short reprieve for her memories. Music continued, unrelenting, however, still holding her enthralled. Melody, a requiem from thousands of years ago, was being prolonged with one of the most potent memory spells in history. With enough time, it would destroy any shield, any mental projection at the whim of the unicorn player. She thought it lost the time. But now, she was under siege from it. Unable to stop listening, her mental defenses buckling under the power of the melody, each note drove into her mind like a red-hot spike. Through the haze of pain, vague images and sounds forced their way through, a wave of foreign memories that somehow felt like her own. Is this necessary? A tiny filly alicorn cuddled up in bed next to her. She felt tired, so tired, but proud and strong. Scenes flashed by until she was looking at a maze. She knew this unicorn, Eldrick. He had disappeared 20 years ago without explanation. I have devised a rune matrix that, once started, will conclude the whole spell, finishing by teleporting all of you back to your rooms, he was saying. Another flash, red-hot pain in her mind. Whistling winds, crackling thunder, an unknown unicorn suddenly appearing in the runic room. Midnight and twilight velvet bowed before her. Do we have to forget? Filly Twilight blinking in the light, muttering her first word. Please take care of my daughter. Her first word had been, Mommy. A battle raged around her, but the nightmare could only see the memories as they relentlessly buffeted her mind, and the last note of Lyra's melody pierced her psyche, destroying all remnants of her defenses, and memories tearing into her very soul. Celestia was ripped free from her slumber, and Nightmare Flare collapsed. The last conscious thought on how unlikely she had heard Twilight's voice, calling for Celestia. After Ebon reigned, the Kingdom Crusaders and the 3 unicorns with them made it to the relative protection under the balcony. Fluttershy realized she didn't know where to look, or where to go. The moment she had turned around to look at the crowd, she had been overwhelmed by the sheer amount of ponies around her. Surprisingly, although a few groups started to run around in panic, most of the ponies stood nervously in place. Even after one of the Shadow Chimeras crouched up into the plaza ground, killing a pony and injuring many others, the majority remained in place, wanting confusion as fear, as if they could not believe what was happening in front of them. The Pegasus stepped gingerly into the area, where the fight had been brought to ground level. There were dozens of wounded all around her, where the shadow creature had landed on top of a pony. Her whole body shook. Her first instinct was to run, but the Pegasus was rooted to the spot. The Pegasus could do nothing but stare. She had never seen something like this, or even imagined could happen. She was used to treating small wounds on animals, not the carnage in front of her. Fluttershy started to hyperventilate. She had no experience in the sound of splintering wood brought her back to reality. The Pegasus then heard Lyra's melody over the chaos of screaming ponies, and everything looking bleak. If the mint-colored unicorn could continue her fight with a noose around her neck, being in the center of the chaos, Fluttershy could do no less. Dear authors of other fics, I'm looking at you, guy who wrote Tears of Gaia. And of course, you know who. This is how you do Fluttershy being both afraid and having a backbone. You see, it's okay to have Fluttershy be scared. That's who she is. It's okay to have Fluttershy being afraid of her own shadow. That is alright. But never forget, she wrestles bears. She will dive bomb to save a baby bird. She will stop a dragon. Basically, she's scared, but the moment something big comes along and she knows she has to do it, that's when her backbone shows. Never forget, there are 2 sides to her, and that's what makes her a great character. She's not your waifu. She is not the little doll that needs protecting. She's not this little thing, your little love object to bestow your different types of fantasies on. She is Fluttershy. She is a pony. She is her own mare. And despite everything, she is not that weak. Just because she is kindness does not mean she is weak. The pink-maned Pegasus muttered a quick prayer to Princess Celestia. She stopped with a fearful glance at Nightmare Flare, and decided to go with a quieter one to Nightmare Moon. She quickly galloped towards the perimeter of the guards.
Excuse me, sir.
Fireside asked one of the guards urgently.
We have to organize and help evacuate and take care of the injured, if you want to, that is.
The guards either couldn't hear her or pretended she wasn't there. Fireside bit her lower lip. There was another crack. She looked up in horror as the balcony almost collapsed on top of the Crusaders and another filly. Where was the guard and the filly's parents? A soft blue glow enveloped the balcony, laying out the brush she had been holding. Fireside turned her eyes towards the crowd, where a light blue unicorn poured her magic out. The cream-colored Pegasus's eyes widened when she recognized the unicorn. She looked back to the Crusaders, and suddenly it clicked in her mind that the little filly standing with the three friends was wearing Trixie's cape. She looked back at the show mare. Trixie had a sister? The sheer scale of what was happening threatened to make her faint. Whole families were here under Nightmare Flare's orders. Fillies, even younger than the Crusaders, older brothers, sisters, and parents, all of them scared and unable to act as monsters, fought all around them. Her train of thought was derailed when a chimera suddenly landed on the gallows platform with a screeching neigh that sent shivers down the Pegasus' back. Its claws smashing the little mechanism that kept the trapdoors under the pony's closed, causing it to open with a snap before launching itself into the air. She closed her eyes, not wanting to see, and when Lyra's music continued playing, they snapped open, and she stared at the sight of Trixie, levitating both the balcony and ponies. Fireside sighed in relief, confident Trixie still had everything under control. She took a deep breath. A cry from the show mare made her open her eyes in horror. Just the time to see the show mare's control slip and one of the ponies fall, breaking its neck with an audible snap and the snark of the noose.
Somebody, please!
The side Pegasus looked around, tears welling up.
Please help her! You can't do it alone!
But her voice went ignored amidst the screams. The chaos escalated as ponies previously paralyzed by fear realized what was happening, as if the sound of his neck breaking had been a bucket full of cold water dumped on them. But instead of helping, Camelot's citizens simply ran away, knocking each other down as they scampered for a way out, only to find all the streets so packed by other ponies they were unable to get out. The Pegasi civilians already fled, except for the few that were rooted to the spot. Whether out of curiosity or panic, she couldn't know. But they were not helping either. Several ponies had been trampled. Here and there, moans came from a few fallen ponies that were still moved. She turned to look at the guards again. This time, however, she was getting angry.
What are you waiting for?
She snapped at a unicorn guard, staring him in the eye. She shifted so she could see the other guards, who were now all looking at her, slightly intimidated. The unicorn Earthplane guards gave her wide-eyed stares. We were ordered to not interfere with whatever happened, one of them stammered. The Pegasus flinched as he heard another rope stare up in the air, Trixie's cry behind her. The second pony had died at the gallows, and Trixie was doing her holding her concentration. She could see talking to Lyra. There was a desperate glint in the Soulmare's eyes. Fireside stared incredulously from one to the next.
But who gives us an order?
As if finally recognizing the fact she was a Shadowbolt captain, the guards were quick to answer. When under orders of Nightmare Flare herself, one replied. A shiver ran down Fireside's back. She turned to look at Trixie as the unicorn fell to her knees due to the stress. Then,
Lyra!
Fireside gasped as the aura that held Lyra flickered and died away. She watched as the unicorn dropped, rope growing taut around her neck. The sickening crack made her shudder as the unicorn's hooves shook and bobbed above the ground for a moment. And then, she simply hung there, very still and very quiet. The tears still warmed her face as her body swayed in front of the crowd of muscleless ponies. Lyra! No! A new voice shouted. Fluttershy opened her eyes to see 3 unicorns running against the ground towards the gallows. Lyra's family. It was impossible to not recognize their resemblance. The cream-colored Pegasus never knew the musician had a younger brother. Something inside her snapped. She turned towards the guards, eyes blazing with barely restrained fury. Who do you think you are? She growled at one unicorn guard, who stepped back from her. You dare call yourselves guards while you're standing here doing nothing? She looked at the others. Do you think that following the orders of Nightmare Flyer is the same as orders for Celestia? You will act now! You will help clear the rubble and get those fillies from out of the balcony, or Trixie's levitation spell fails, and you will do it now! She shouted. The guards in front of her immediately ran to the balcony, but those who hadn't received a stare hesitated. What are you waiting for? I gave you an order! Fluttershy roared, her face contorted in anger. I don't care who ordered you to do what you did before. You're doing this to Equestria! The guards nodded, all terrified right down to the last pony. You four! She pointed. Tell the others, we need to clear the plaza now. There's too many ponies here that'll get injured. She turned to another group. You go help those wooden ponies. The rest of you find doctors, nurses, anybody willing and able to help. Yes, ma'am! Came the resounding reply. Oh. More authors need to read this fic. And more authors need to see this Fluttershy moment. And then they need to get it slapped to their heads on, this is how you do flutters. Oh. The fillies looked in horror at the planks that had fallen on top of Daisy Sprouts' parents. Mom! Dad! Trixie's sister cried, trying to move the planks. Are you okay? She couldn't lose them. Not now. Not after losing her sister. She sobbed as she tried to push the planks away. Suddenly, there were other small hoofs helping her. The 3 Crusaders joined her despite desperate efforts to find the buried ponies. Don't worry, Daisy Sprout, Scootaloo says the first plank hit the floor. You're not alone. We'll get them out in 10 seconds flat. Apple Bloom looked up at the balcony, a little nervous. I wonder what's keeping it up. That flag looks really heavy. Sweet Belle's eyes roamed the plaza. They settled on a cloaked unicorn. She was on her knees crying, but her horns shone the same bright blue light as the magical aura that surrounded the balcony. She couldn't see why the unicorn was crying, but she knew enough about magic to know that the unicorn got too distracted, she would lose control of her spell, and the balcony would crush them all. Help! She said. Yes, you have to concentrate, drawing the attention of the other 3 fillies. The balcony groaned as the mayor turned to look at him. Daisy Sprout stared, heart beating hard in her chest, eyes wiring more. Trixie! She wailed. Trixie! Sis! Mom and Dad are hurt! Please! The mayor's eyes opened wide as she looked their way and noticed what was happening. Slowly standing up, Trixie concentrated on the balcony. The structure groaned as the magic tore at the balcony. The fillies looked up nervously as the gravel from the wall had been attached to rained down around them. Another pull and crack as the wooden stairs leading up to the balcony splintered and broke. The fillies crouched loud now as the balcony was suddenly ripped from the wall. Trixie shouted as she threw remains of the structure into the air, catching one of the chimeras attacking Nightmare Moon with it. The shadow creature did not even know what happened hit it as Trixie's magic slammed on the balcony with tremendous force into the fountain, completely destroying the statue of Celestia that used to sit there. The broken pipes began to spew into the water into the air, high above the buildings. The wind spread it, creating a misty haze. The chimera did not lose again. Daisy Sprout! Trixie said, starting towards them as a group of guards arrived and fervently started digging the parents out. Trixie! Daisy Sprout stammered, not believing her eyes. You're alive! Tears started flowing freely as the show mare slid into a stop just in front of her. Trixie was breathing heavily, tears drying in her face as she took stock of her little sister.
I, are you okay? Did anything fall on you? I'm sorry I wasn't able to get rid of it quicker. I tried to help.
Her lips trembled.
I couldn't save.
She was stunned from talking when Daisy Sprout lost herself and tackled the older unicorn in a hug.
Trixie!
She cried, sobbing as her older sister stopped stammering, with a gentle smile, closed her eyes and hugged her sister back.
They're okay!
A guard said, helping Cinnamon and her husband up. Cinnamon immediately looked for her daughter and found her crying and hugging an unknown pony.
Daisy!
The little filly gasped and turned around, the amount of tears doubling as she stared.
Mom! Dad! You're okay!
She let go of Trixie and ran to hug them down. Both unicorns smiled and wrapped their daughter in a hug.
Aww!
Both Sleepbell and Apple Bloom sighed at the scene while Skulu hid a smile. Trixie slowly stood up, drawing the attention of the two adults. Cinnamon choked, looking at her in confusion as her dad slowly disengaged from herself and hugged and walked up to her.
Trixie?
The magician scratched the floor with her hoof.
Dad,
She never finished talking, as she suddenly found herself held close by her father. Soon, Cinnamon and Daisy Sprout were hugging her as well. "We thought you were dead," he whispered, nuzzling his daughter. "We heard bad news, and—" The reunion was cut off by one of the guards. "Excuse me, you're Dr. Golden Cross, correct?" When Trixie's dad nodded, the guard sighed. "Sir, under orders from a Shadowbolt captain, all doctors and nurses in the area are to help those in need." Golden Cross blinked. Of course. What was I thinking?" He turned back to his family. "We have a lot to talk about, but—" Trixie smiled, putting a hoof on his mouth.
we have duties to perform.
Still finished for him.
We all do. Go help them, Dad.
As he turned to trot towards the bow, Daisy Sprout jumped forward.
Trixie! Wait!
Silsmere stopped to look down at her sister.
What is it, Daisy Sprout? You need this.
The unicorn said, using her mouth to undo the clasp on the cape. Trixie levitated and threw off her cloak. The cape was a bit torn from the guardian's attack, but otherwise unharmed.
Thanks,
she smiled as the cape attached around her neck. The blue unicorn smiled. Then she looked towards the gals, and her smile dropped.
I have to go. Be careful.
She looked them over her shoulder.
But fear not! The great and powerful Trixie is here!
With that, she sided towards the fray.
Well,
Skulu said after a second.
Your sister is awesome. I know.
Daisy Sprout smiled. Trixie?
What?
That was unbelievably awesome.
Thank you.
Needed you tipping your hat, though.
Yes, it did. It needed Trixie tipping her hat.
Lyra's melody ended abruptly, and it was all Nightmare Moon could do to slam more force into her spell, keeping the memories flowing and hoping that she enough to snap her sister back from the nightmare. She located what she was looking for. Now she had to find all the little traces that connected her and her sister to the Guardian. She still needed more time. Nightmare Moon glanced down at the gallows, and her magic almost failed her when she saw Lyra. Struggling to keep her emotions in check, she returned to her work, knowing that she had one more death to add to her long list of failures. At least Lyra's spell completed its purpose, she thought guiltily. Nightmare Flare has passed out, though she had no way to stop the memories from reaching her. I'm sorry, Lyra. Instead, the other Shadow Chimera attacked. She had less than a second to move, as she banked down to the side, then flew up into her back, keeping her slim hold of the Guardian's tendrils in check.
Where is everybody?
She growled as she allowed her mind to scan for her allies. There was too much going on, and every pony was doing their job. Sadly, that wasn't enough. Using her telekinetic hold on the first Shadow Chimera, she proceeded to use it in about the second to one way whenever it came too close. It would have been amusing if it were not keeping her from finding that last tendril. Her anger rose as the Chimera struggled to get to her. Also, if you two could ever do something to me. She glared in her direction for a second before snapping her attention back to Nightmare Flare. I can't let them distract me. I'm almost done! Then she felt a tremendous impulse of magic. Suddenly her balcony sailed in front of her and took down one of the chimeras. Her mouth slid open and eyes widened. What the hey? She shook her head and felt the magic start to slip through her control. Nightmare Moon immediately tightened her grip on the tendrils. That distraction had almost cost her everything. Eyes narrowed. Just a few more. Rainbow Dash was batted away by Spitfire. The Cyan Pegasus tumbled through the air, trying to regain her senses. The Chimera was strong. Really strong. Soren took advantage of his former teammate's distraction and dove down, slamming his forehost with as much strength as he could muster into the middle of the Dragon Pony Abomination's neck, eliciting a pained growl. The draconic tail sneaked up faster than lightning, cutting painfully into his arm. Soren gulped. He had almost been completely impaled by Spitfire. The Pegasus bit back a scream, instead opting to fly back, gaining some breathing room between the Chimera and himself. The Spitfire turned to glare in his direction.
Oh, well, Soren. It seems all those apple pies finally caught up to you. They're slowing you down,
she spat. The hatred in her eyes felt completely surreal to her old wingmate.
Spitfire, this isn't you!
She shouted, spying a recuperated rainbow gas getting under position.
I don't know what Nightmare Flare did to you, but whoa!
He yelled, ducking fast enough of a burst of flame that passed over his head, but not fast enough to dodge the tail that rammed hard into his abdomen, sending him spiraling down towards the plaza.
Don't insult the queen! Oof!
Rainbow Dash's momentum field charge accumulated in a straight punch to the Chimera's stomach, rushing all the air out of her lungs in a pained wheeze.
We're taking down Nightmare Flare, and then we're getting you back to normal!
The chromatic Pegasus shouted, spinning in place and landing a hard kick to Spitfire's ribs. Gasping for breath, the former Wonderbolt's eyes glowed red in anger. She grabbed Rainbow Dash by the throat before the Sign Flyer knew what was happening.
I'll rip your wings off and let you suffer for a while before you come whimpering for me to take you back.
Dash struggled but could not break free.
What is it about Nightmare Flare and turning ponies into perverts?
She gasped, feeling the claws around her neck begin to draw blood.
Maybe I should get rid of your voice, too.
Spitfire snarled.
I think I like you better as a mute.
A roar, similar to that of a lion, split the air. Surprised, the Chimera released the Pegasus. Rainbow Dash felt her heart give a lurch. Something crashed on top of the abomination, slashing the wicked claws with sharp as strangling the ponies, putting a sharp beak to good use as the Chimera fought frantically to turn around and retaliate in some way. Both the Chimera and her assailant plummeted down towards the city.
Whoa! Is that...
Spitfire gasped, flying at the Rainbow Dash.
Gilda!
The Cyan Pegasus shouted, diving in after them.
Gilda? I thought it was a griffin. I'm pretty sure it's a griffin.
The stallion shouted, following Rainbow Dash down.
That's her name, Featherbrain!
Rainbow Dash shouted.
We need to catch up with them. She couldn't be here. Oh, you know her.
Spitfire Soren nodded in understanding. Rainbow just rolled her eyes.
Just help her!
Papercraft, you get back here, now! He heard his mother shout as his parents chased after him. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. Eventually his scouts brought him up to the gallows, where he slowed down until he stopped under the slightly swaying body of his sister. He couldn't bring himself to look up at her. Instead, his gaze settled on the pieces of broken lyre that laid at his hoofs. He remembered how, several years ago during Lyra's 10th birthday, some pony had given it to her. She searched for a card inside the box, but never found out who'd given it to her. Her parents weren't happy about it. They raised in private about how inconsiderate Lyra's friends were. They had discouraged her interest in music from an early age, unwilling to support her passion, trying to get her interested in other more socially acceptable endeavors, like accounting or law. The lyre was a direct insult to them, or so they thought. They didn't destroy it, though. said several of her friends were important ponies in their own right, and the musical instrument was exquisite, photographed with inlaid designs of a gold leaf. No, they didn't like it, but they would never throw something so expensive away. Papercraft still felt proud he had managed to sneak that present past his parents. Even broken, he could tell the loving care with which he treated the instrument. The inlays were clean, the paint immaculate. After all this time, he was sure that she would have had to take it to be fixed at least a couple of times. He sniffed, watching his tears fall between the broken pieces. He loved staying awake at night to hear his sister practice, and had missed her dearly when she announced, to their parents' anger, she would be moving to Ponyville to join the small town's orchestra. He smiled a bit. He, of all his family, should have known that there was more to it than simple rebellion against their parents. He never understood it fully until earlier today, when the body of the mayor had been brought to the dungeons. His heart never ached as badly when his sister had broken down and cried in the castle's dungeon. While his parents had huffed and marched themselves out, he stayed behind, sitting on the stone-cold stairs, listening to his sister cry at the loss of her lover. He had gritted his teeth and closed his eyes when she had broken down and started laughing for no reason. He had been to walk back in and offer whatever support he could, but then she started playing, and he couldn't intrude. Papercraft! His father's voice reached him. There's nothing to see here, son. Let's go. She's here, Nicole said, finally looking up at the body suspended above him. The tears flowed more freely now as he stood up on his hind legs to hug hers. He buried his face in the soft coat and cried. She's dead. Good riddance to her. Her mother's words made his blood run cold. He choked up and tears died. He misheard. He must have heard wrong. She was always a failure, his mother continued, refusing to look up at the body. Playing with that stupid instrument, wasting our money studying music, and accomplishing nothing but playing in a small town just so she could be with that disgusting earth pony. Figures she would be a failure photo on top of it all. Come now, dear, his father said. Let's not talk about things gone wrong. Papercraft, let's go. We need to leave before something bad happens. Before something bad happens? Unicorn whispered. He slowly turned around to face his parents. Filly Fuller! Failure! That is my sister you're talking about! Your daughter! You raised her! She was beautiful. He broke down crying and stepped back, shaking his head violently when his father approached. You're monsters! He shouted, looking at both of them. His father faced a cold mask. His mother's adorned with a sneer-tinted taste. She looked up at the body hanging from the nose. How can you be so cold and cruel? Does he feel anything? Does he feel any regrets? We'll never talk to her again. She's gone! Papercraft. Don't, he shouted. Don't you dare talk to me. Don't you dare come any closer! His father ignored him, trying to put a comforting hoof on his son's shoulder. He didn't watch where he was going, and stepped on one of the lyre pieces by accident. Papercraft saw red. With an angry roar, his horn blazed to life, flipping flyers and posters from the nearby walls. They glowed with arcane light as he swirled into a whirlwind around his father. The older unicorn gasped as he was suddenly surrounded. He cried out in pain as small cuts appeared on his clothes and flesh, as the confused unicorn tried to backpedal away from his son. Son! Stop that this instant! His mother shouted, only for a piece of paper to wrap tightly around her mouth. Shut up! I am not your son! Papercraft shouted. I don't know who you are, but monsters like you could never be my parents! Son, listen to your mother! His father shouted, unable to concentrate his magic to break free from the vortex. This is not helping any! I don't want to help! He snapped, his eyes glaring at one parent to another. Leave us alone. You have been nothing but unfeeling, hateful, and petty keepers for me and Lyra. He shook his head, scratched the floor, breathing heavily, and ignoring the hurt in his parents' eyes. Unless she was strong enough and had the common sense to escape from you. And look where it landed, huh? His mother spat back, having used her magic to rip the paper away from her mouth. Hanging from the gallows after wasting her life, and last moments playing her stupid music! Excuse me, another voice said, filled with venom. The three unicorns turned to face a blue unicorn with a purple hat and cape decorated with stars.
Did you just say that Lyra's melody, the melody that just now brought down Nightmare Flare, was stupid?
The mayor asked, tears welling up as her eyes flared in anger.
Did you imply that your own daughter's heroic sacrifice was stupid?
What business is it yours? Lyra's mother asked, looking down her nose at Trixie. Wait, I recognize you. You're Cinnamon's daughter, aren't you? That's another useless dropout who went to waste her life seeking fame. She was suddenly thrown back to land painfully on the wet floor, covering her coat in blood, crying in pieces of pony. Unable to fight the bile rising in her throat, she suddenly violently vomited. Glaring at the malice of Somare, she stood up. How dare you! Who do you think you are? Papercraft's father finally managed to blast the vortex surrounding him. I'll have you arrested for this!
By whom?
Trixie laughed at them, walking to stand beside Papercraft.
In case you haven't noticed, we're in the middle of a crisis!
Lyra's parents stood their ground, horns shivering with magic. Trixie narrowed her eyes.
Do you really want to test my patience?
Her magic aura suddenly grew around her, easily outshining the glow of their horns. Trixie, you are eating this up!
Are you kidding? This is one of Trixie's finest moments that's not a Lucifer story! Of course she's going to eat it up!
The stallion took an involuntary step back, intimidated by her display. Papercraft, come on. Let's leave these two alone. No, the colt said, his eyes furious. I'll never go back to you. Papercraft, his mother tried again.
The young unicorn spoke his mind,
Trixie growled.
Leave, before I forget what Lyra would have wanted, and I reduce your bodies to ashes, and then have them baked into a diamond dog piss pot!
With a silent look, his parents turned around and trotted away. A soft blue aura enveloped the late unicorn's body, as Trixie's magic slowly undid the noose. When it was done, she slowly levitated the body down, next to Papercraft.
Can you levitate her?
She asked softly. She placed the pieces of the lyre on top of Lyra's body, using a discarded cloak to cover up and wrap the body. The young colt nodded. I think so, he said, fighting the tears that threatened to flow again.
Good.
The showmare sighed.
Take her over there, to where those fillies are. I don't want anything to happen to her.
She choked.
She's a hero, Papercraft. You should be proud.
The colt's magic was already coating his sister's body. Oh, I am, he said with a small smile. I've always been proud of her. Trixie watched the young unicorn float in Lyra's body, along as he went towards his mother, and cursed her lack of strength. He sighed. This battle was costing every pony much more than she ever. Her thoughts were interrupted by the screech slight sound of a shadow chimera. She looked up, and her eyes widened. The showmare scrambled out of the way, hurling it with magic to create a simmering shield around her, as the gals exploded behind her. Owlsack was set flying by a straight kick from the shadow chimera. She and Big Macintosh were fighting. She landed painfully, but rolled with momentum until she finally slid to a stop. The rope she had held so tightly whipped around as her brother jumped back, and circled the dangerous shadow creature as it tried to keep both ponies in sight. The chimera pulled back, making the stallion brace himself and pull back as well, only for the creature to pounce on him. The rope went slack so suddenly that Big Mac lost his balance. The chimera was on him immediately, landing on top of him so forcefully that the stallion knocked his head on the floor. Black Maniac! Applejack shouted in panic, charging toward him. The red-coated pony desperately dodged the call down as he ran to the stone next to his head, leaving deep gashes on the floor. He kicked as hard as he could, but the creature ignored the pain, still trying to claw the stallion to death. The chimera opened its maw. Black fangs cleared even under the professional gloom of the eclipse, and dove down to clamp upon his neck. Applejack dove in, her legs already kicking out for all she was worth at the creature's exposed side. The kick made it roll to the side and knocked the stallion, who stood up a bit shakily. The chimera managed to draw blood. A small rivulet started flowing down his neck from several small cuts. "You okay, Big Black?" Applejack asked, looking at him worriedly, and wondering if the creature's bite was poisonous. The stallion nodded, his eyes carefully watching the creature as it jumped to its feet with almost a feline grace. The ropes trailed behind it as it started circling them. "We need to get rid of it quickly," he whispered, and winced, feeling the sting of the bite wounds around his neck. His sister nodded and grazed the balcony for a split second. "I have an idea," she said, "but I'm going to need your help. It's a bit risky." Lee McIntosh nodded. "Just tell me what to do, sis." "We need to get ropes," she said, eyes following the creature. "Then I need you to distract it long enough for me to throw the end of my rope through one of those spaces on the balcony. Then, when I pull it back, you grab your rope and pull it down, throwing all your weight on it. We'll break its neck." The stallion nodded again. He started moving to his left, while Applejack moved to the right, effectively stopping the creature in its tracks as it watched them both warily. Big Mac made the first move. Feigning a charge at the monster, the stallion stayed his course at the last second, forcing the Sao Chimera to whirl around to keep him in sight, leaving the ropes unattended. Applejack immediately shot forth, picking up the end of the rope and preparing to throw it at the balcony, cursing herself for not thinking of this earlier. She had been up there earlier. She was about to proceed with her plan when a sickening crack and Big Macintosh shout snapped her cold. She looked back towards her brother, only to find him laying in a pool of blood at the feet of the Sao Chimera. With a desperate shout, she yanked the rope, pulling the creature a couple feet away from him, trying to see if he was moving or still breathing. The creature, however, had other plans. With a mighty pounce, it landed on the preoccupied apple farmer, knocking the air out of her and almost knocking her out. She choked and coughed as the chimera pressed his weight down on his chest. The light blurred her vision, distorting the light of the fanged maw as it lowered towards her. Twilight Spark was getting frustrated. Jade was too good to fall for simple tricks, and too fast to catch with her most powerful spells. They had been trained blows since the attack on Nightmare Flare commenced, but neither had gained a clear advantage. Even as she had been on the receiving end of most of Jade's attacks, while the white-out unicorn just dodged about everything. She was lucky she had been able to keep vital areas out of reach of the assassin's blade, or the battle would have been over by now. Had Nightmare Flare not given her more strength, endurance, and power than even Spitfire received, she didn't think she would have lasted more than a minute. Which made her hate the assassin more. Green Mane Pony moved with a grace and intent that was inevitable. The White Unicorn's attacks were precise, where her own were powerful but unfocused. She growled as Jade nimbly twirled in place, dodging a massive missile. "Those are always supposed to hit!" she accused. The assassin took advantage of her distraction to buck her in the jaw, summoning her stumbling back. Sinking her head, she opened her eyes in time to see her opponent charging at her. "Enough!" she shouted, expelling a shell of magic around her, sending the assassin reeling. "I'll kill you, you cheap excuse for a unicorn!" Jade was already on her hose, but the assassin had landed far enough she wouldn't be able to close the distance between them in time. It was then Spark heard Applejack's shout. The purple unicorn's head snapped to the side, quickly spying the Shao Chimera as it stood on top of the apple farmer, claws raised and ready to deal the killing blow. Big Mac was either unconscious or dead several feet away from them, and there was no pointing around to help Applejack. "I swear, Arthur, you killed Big Mac, and there will be Tartarus to pay!" Without a second thought, the spell had been intended for Jade, slammed into the creature, throwing it off Applejack and enveloping it in flames. "Don't you dare touch her!" Sparks shouted, galloping towards the monster as her dark purple aura formed into 5 energy blades that shot towards the chimera. The blades cut into the creature, eliciting a pained roar as it stumbled back with each strike. His wings were sheared off by a pair of energy blades. One leg that was almost cut off. The last blade bit into its neck, parting it with ease. The shadow chimera collapsed, head rolling away from the body. But Twilight Spark only had eyes for Applejack. Was looking at her in pain and confusion. She slowed down until she was a few feet away from the apple farmer. "Are you okay, Applejack?" she asked, her eyes scanning the other mare's body, taking note of the small cuts. The orange-coated earth pony stared at her for a few seconds, then struggled to sit up. She looked over her shoulder and noticed that Big Macintosh was slowly getting to his hoofs. He seemed okay, as if a little dazed. She released the brush she didn't know she had been holding. Turned and looked back at the unicorn that caused her so much grief and worry and confusion. She smiled a little. I am. Thank you, Twilight Spark." The purple unicorn's heart fluttered. Sure, anytime, Applejack." She coughed, trying to compose herself. It wouldn't do for the apple farmer to see her as anything but the strong mare she was. Anyway, I couldn't let my pet get hurt. What kind of lover would I be?" She asked with a smirk, still a bit shaky by the thought of losing the mare, and ignoring Applejack's once at the term. She decided to just tease the farmer. "We still have a lot of stuff to do in bed." She saw Applejack's eyes widen as the apple farmer looked at something behind her. The world whirled around in a blur as she turned around to see day descending on her, forehoof with its blade poised for a deadly strike. Suddenly, she felt something hit her hard, the world spinning around her once more as she saw blood fan out over her. Gilda fought furiously, claws digging into the chimera's soft underbelly, tearing out scales as her target roared in pain. Spitfire snarled angrily as she sucked out the pain and her claws dug into her shoulders, holding her in place while the former pony opened her mouth and flames started to accumulate. Seeing this, the griffin thrashed about, ignoring the pain as the claws ripped into her shoulders. With a desperate swipe of her hind legs straight at Spitfire's face, she was able to force the chimera's head to the side the moment it released a blast of flame that seemed as though it could have melted her face around her beak. Both fires flew apart from each other, bloody and breathing hard. "Not bad," Gilda smirked, forcing her claws to stay put, not to rub her painfully throbbing shoulders. Spitfire growled. "You're interrupting a private dispute, pigeon. I'll give you this one chance to leave." Gilda growled back. "That's not happening. You're not cool enough to dance with me, much less Rainbow Dash. But at least I can whip your sorry flank out of the sky and save us all the trouble to look at your scaly mug." "That's it!" Spitfire roared, flames surging around her body. "Full gloves are off. I'm going to wipe that smirk off your beak and then remove it from your carcass." The griffin gulped as she rolled out the fire blast that sailed past her. "You have to catch me first, scaly flank," she shouted first. "Die!" the chimera shouted as she charged towards Gilda, who did the smart thing and turned tail, backing up and trying to put some distance between them. She had to concentrate and evade several fireballs that tore right past her as she dashed from side to side, trying her best not to be immolated. A black blur zoomed down past Gilda, leaving a rainbow trail. As the griffin snapped her head around, she saw Dash plant a solid hoof into the chimera's face, throwing the beast off course. Quickly taking advantage of the shift in battle, Gilda did a backwards loop to gather speed before sweeping down towards her friend. Another dark blur, this one trailing a dark cloud with small lightning bolts slammed into the side of the chimera, at least one of its ribs as the creature tried to fry Dash's coat with his flames. "Step out of it, Spitfire!" soared Soren, before wincing as the chimera sliced his foreleg with her sharp wings in a fluid motion. "How about I snap your neck instead?" his former partner growled. "How about you shut the hay up?" Rainbow Dash retorted, with a buck right into the chimera's stomach, where Gilda just clawed at her. The chimera roared in pain before smashing Rainbow in the snout with a ferocious blow from her tail, sending the Pegasus reeling backwards. At the same time, one of Spitfire's talons grabbed Soren's head, another ripping through his uniform, leaving bloody gashes across his flank. Gilda's eagle-like cry split the air as she sped past the chimera, and catching the creature's throat in her arm, forcing her to release Soren, who carefully retreated while facing the pair quickly to scan his injury. Although painful, it seemed that the damage was more superficial than he originally thought. "This
We'll sting for a while,
he wheezed. Rainbow Dash saw past him, anger in her eyes, blood flowing from her nose. She gritted her teeth as he ran down to Chimera in his shoulder with all her strength and momentum, hearing a sickening crack and an anguished cry of Spitfire a split second later. The Wonderbolt turned monster, started glowing, and her three opponents suddenly found themselves dodging for dear life as the trails of fire sliced through the air. Rainbow Dash cried in pain as she was hit by one of her hind legs while dodging another pair. She quickly patted the fire out, but the damage had already been done. Her melted uniform burnt into her flesh, much of her cyan fur burnt away. As he bit her lower lip to stop her crying out in pain blurred her vision. "Watch out!" Gilda shouted, her claw grabbing Rainbow Dash by the hoof and yanking her away as another barrage of flames shot past her previous location.
Thanks,
the chromatic Pegasus panted, nodding thankfully at the Griffin.
"What are we going to do now, Captain?"
Soren asked, flying up to the pair as he wearily watched Spitfire turn to look at them with a hatred. Gilda arched an eyebrow at the title, but Rainbow Dash just shook her head.
"I don't know. We tried reasoning with her, but she's too much under Nightmare Flare's influence to care." "I see we beat her up," Gilda growled. "You can talk to her later." "Hey, that's my partner you're talking about,"
Soren growled back.
"In case you haven't noticed, she's trying to fry us into snacks,"
Gilda snapped back.
Guys,
Rainbow Dash flew in between them.
"What's he doing?"
The Griffin and the blue-maned Pegasus turned to look at the Chimera. The air around Spitfire seemed to shimmer as small flames lit her body. Solely, a golden or red aura formed around her.
"I don't like to look at that,"
Gilda gasped, eyes widening. The aura slowly expanded until the Chimera had a spear of golden red aura expanding a couple feet in all directions until it shimmered a preventive bubble with Spitfire in the middle. Then it burst into flames and started spinning in place like a miniature sun.
"I really don't like to look at that,"
Soren seconded.
"Scatter!"
Rainbow Dash shouted as she shot up into the air, while Soren took left and Gilda right, barely in time to avoid being rammed by the spear, which turned around and started chasing the Griffin.
"Why me?"
Gilda shouted, looking back over her shoulder and snarling in annoyance.
"Because you're the slowest idiot!"
Spitfire laughed from somewhere within her spear. The Griffin lowered her eyes at the insults, but concentrated on putting some distance between them. High above them, Rainbow Dash watched in horror as her friend was about to be fried alive.
"Oh, no, you don't!"
she sighed, diving towards him with all the speed she could muster. Soren watched in awe as the air seemed to bend around Rainbow Dash. The last time he had been around, and that had happened, he had been unconscious and falling to his death, but he had heard the description from the other Pegasi that had witnessed it. The atmospheric pressure around her made the chromatic Pegasus grit her teeth. Her leg hurt tremendously. Wings strayed under the pressure and stresses from the battle. The wind buffeted against her mane. Just as he felt like she couldn't go on, the silent Pegasus was in that split-second moment that made the sonic rain boom so much more than a simple stunt. Everything around her came into sharp focus. Doubts left her. Pain faded away. This was her moment. The cone of sonic resistance broke less than a second after, shooting at her like a rainbow bullet to slant through the exterior of Spitfire's flame spear without a pause. The sonic rainbow destroyed the fiery shield, was disintegrated as the Pegasus tore out again, this time heading up. Spitfire was thrown down, completely knocked out, even before she crashed into the buildings of the plaza. Gilda stared in awe as Rainbow Dash shot up for a few miles before stopping and falling. Once until her friend's unconscious form plummeted past her, till she reacted and dove to catch her friend. She nearly caught up with the Pegasus, and, matching her speed, was able to break her fall. She held her friend and catch to her chest, looking towards the expanding rainbow wing far above them.
"What's that?"
she finally asked.
"The sonic rainbow,"
Soren whispered, as he hovered over the pair.
"I didn't get to see it until now. It's amazing."
Gilda nodded mutely, as he slowly made their way towards the plaza. Soren suddenly drew a sharp breath, and, without explanation, launched himself towards the gallows. Gilda followed him slowly, arms wrapped around protectively around her unconscious friend.
"Applejack!"
Two voices shouted in unison as the orange surf pony fell to her side, a nasty cut on her shoulder bleeding heavily.
"You idiot!"
Jade shouted, turning angrily towards the assassin. Twilight Spark's eyes shone white with barely restrained napkin.
You talk!
C said angrily, then growled,
You hurt Applejack!
Your point called, Girls!
Y'all want to talk!
Jade snapped back at Spark, knowing it was too late to pretend to be mute again.
You've been torturing her since you got your dirty hose on her! You're nothing but a mistake at the cost of the life of a dear friend!
Her horn glowed with a blue horror as he said to her persisted to strike.
You've gotten away so far, but this time I will make sure you die!
Twilight Spark was turning her back by the anger in Jade's eyes, even as the hurtful words dug at her. She smirked, doing her best to ignore them.
And what is she to you? She taunted. You met her once a few years ago. You have no relation to her. I have fought hydras and dragons, and even Nightmare Moon by her side.
Dang it! I'm talking to you! Applejack growled from the floor, painfully raising her head to glare at the pair. She was ignored.
You're not Twilight Sparkle,
Jade roared.
You were created to think you were, but you're nothing but an imitation. And
equals. Excuse me, guys. I'd like to pause this rant for a sec. Okay, that word is not existent in English dictionary.
An equus.
The assassin started pacing
with nothing else.
Twilight Spark bit her lip, and eyes flashed with hurt and anger.
That's not true. I am Twilight Sparkle. I just changed my name. I have my memories.
Jade snored.
Really? If you're the real Twilight Sparkle, tell me, what were you doing just before you left Ponyville?
Twilight's horn stopped glowing as her eyes widened. Her mind raced as she tried to remember. Had she been racing? Got 5th place? No, that was in the fall.
I am Twilight Sparkle!
She cried, stepping back.
Why can't I remember?
She thought furiously.
It's all a jumble of images.
Another memory surfaced. She was at the Ponyville Library. But the perspective was wrong. She looked down at the 6 ponies around her as she spoke. Applejack, Rarity, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, and
me.
Girls! Applejack called again. But to her frustration, the pair of unicorns were too involved in their argument.
No.
Jade's cloth mask covered her face, but Smart could see the vicious smile reflecting in her eyes as the assassin pointed towards the balcony.
Twilight is up there, setting Celestia free, which is exactly what the real Twilight Sparkle should be doing.
Despite herself, despite knowing it was an awfully stupid thing to do, Twilight Spark turned her head up and looked. The Pegasus pony had been with Jade since the fight began, was now standing next to the collapsed queen. She had taken off her mask, revealing her face.
No,
Twilight Spark whispered in horror, her conviction fading as the sight of the purple Pegasus.
Do you see it now, monster?
Jade met Twilight Spark's eyes as the unicorn faced the assassin with a slightly panicked look.
The real Twilight Sparkle would never kill any pony,
the assassin accused.
But they attacked the queens!
Spark blurted out, shaking her head.
I had to do it,
she thought.
Or did I? Couldn't I have just paralyzed them like I did with the bearers and the elements of harmony?
Another part of her mind argued.
The real Twilight Sparkle never killed. Even if you can't remember, you know it's true.
The real Twilight would not try to force Applejack to love her, Jade growled, her eyes as hard as steel as he looked down at the slightly cringing purple unicorn.
I didn't force her. I didn't.
Spark cried as one by one tears started to rain down her cheek.
I just wanted to see her how much I need her.
Applejack sighed and looked down. For a second, the assassin seemed taken aback by her opponent's outburst, but she quickly shook her head.
The real Twilight would have let Princess Celestia turn her into a monster like Nightmare Flare.
Twilight Spark fell on her rump. What little of her magic that was still active slowly faded, leaving the dark purple unicorn staring blankly at the floor.
I'm a lie?
Her heart seemed to skip painfully.
Am I just a construct? An equalist? An imitation?
She looked back towards the balcony.
But she's not even a unicorn,
she whispered futilely. Even as she voiced her complaints, Spark could feel her magic skip whenever she thought of the other Twilight. She could feel herself drawn to her, not as a lover as she fancied herself of Applejack, but as a part of a whole.
I know the truth now. Was my love of Applejack even real? Could a creature like me even feel?
Her blood felt like ice as her thoughts took that turn.
How could Applejack ever love me back? When I am nothing.
Jade approached the immobile unicorn, her eyes hard.
I'm real,
Spark whispered, making the assassin stop for a minute.
I fear and I hurt. I can't be a lie.
Don't you dare! Jade, Applejack said, struggling to get up. Her foreleg was too damaged for her to put any pressure on it. Finally, Spark flinched and looked at the apple farmer, confusion in her eyes.
Does she care?
You can't stop me now, Applejack, Jade said gently.
I don't know what she did to you, and I don't know why you saved her. Don't you remember what happens if she stays alive? What would happen to Twilight?
Spark's eyes went from one pony to another.
What are they talking about? Am I doing this something to Twilight just by being here?
The airplane winced and looked down. Her eyes then rose to meet the purple unicorn's.
I just don't want her to die,
she said, not making eye contact.
So you had no choice in how she was made?
The assassin stopped in front of Spark, never taking her eyes off the whimpering purple unicorn.
She,
the apple farmer sighed.
She never did anything to me other than tease me, Jade.
She looked at the purple unicorn.
I know she's not a good pony. I know that she has done things that no pony can forgive, but look at who made her, and why.
She was made for all the old reasons, she said.
No!
The Applejack struggled again, or sighing leaning on her elbow.
Jade, she was made out of love, from a mother to her daughter.
Jade closed her eyes.
Be that as it may, even if the reasons behind her creation are as noble as you say, the fact is, Applejack, that Spark was created by the same magic that turned the princess into a nightmare. She cannot be allowed to live.
I used to think the same thing about Nightmare Moon, Applejack pleaded. I know why her to live doesn't make sense to you, Jade, but I can't bring myself to let you kill her. She's part of Twilight Sparkle. Jade's blue eyes opened slowly.
Only the horn, and not for long.
She closed the gap between her and the unicorn. Twilight Sparks looked up at Jade, tears slowly falling down her cheek as she gazed into the eyes of her executioner before she turned to expose her neck. Her eyes went to meet Applejack's.
I'm sorry. I love you.
She closed her eyes. Applejack averted her eyes. Jade raised her blade, muscles tensing to make it as quick as possible. The blade poised to kill. The assassin narrowed her eyes and hesitated. Then she stepped back, wide-eyed, as everything around her began to shake violently.
These same cuts are about as annoying as mine!
Wait a sec. Over here! Somebody shouted. Slowly, she started hearing more voices. Voices and the sound of being shifted around. Or perhaps the sound of hooves scraping against stone. She tried to take a deep breath, but something was pressing down on her, barely allowing the air to go through. Her memory was hazy. How did he end up here? This mental image of a strange shadow monster came to her as she remembered.
Damn. That thing packs a punch.
Somehow, she didn't feel too worried. Although, being upside down and having several parts of her body immobilized by heavy things put her in a weird position. Her left shoulder was propped on something hard, but not stone. Wood? She thought she had seen a wooden beam. She shifted as the sounds outside continued. There was something soft under her. She caught and felt liquid slide down her muzzle. That was not good. She tried to move more, but then felt pain from her chest. Something. Her hoof felt its way around until it belted something. It felt. Her thoughts were interrupted by the heavy weight on top of her shifting, and slowly started levitating. I see something! She's alive! The unicorn shouted. You're going to be okay. Don't. Oh, Celestia, Evan Rain.
That's not mine,
she started to say, but then followed his eyes down. A mangled body laid under her. The legs were twisted into unnatural positions. One was almost completely severed. His neck had been obviously broken due to his horn getting stuck in her abdomen. She grated her teeth as she looked down at how bad the wound was. It was a belly wound, and the horn probably ripped her stomach. Great. She coughed as she took stock of her other wounds. Punctured lung, and several broken ribs. She winced as she forced her wings to move. Wings survived, somehow. If we move quickly, the guard stammered, staring at her. Behind the unicorn, the Pegasus could still see 3 shadow crest racers, and her fellow Wonderbolts turned shadow bolts, finding it out. No. With a slab off, she forced herself up. The horn slid out of her painfully. With a disgusting, squelching sound, her right leg almost gave out under her weight. No, the guard repeated. She shook her head, barely able to concentrate. There's no time. Misty was up there, alone with that thing. She couldn't leave her teammate to deal with that by herself, while she was being pampered over. The guard stepped back, aghast, as he stumbled out the remains of the wall she crashed into, dripping blood. She heard several gasps from other ponies, including a small group of fillies that stared at her. Hi, she greeted them all. Don't worry about me. She coughed, and swayed before forcing her legs to keep her upright. Just pass it through. You're blast! One of the fillies, a Pegasus, gasped. Hey, she blinked, feeling light. Van, how charming. Nice to meet you, little filly. She knew what was happening. I wish I could stay in chat, but... She looked up. My captain, my friends need me. Little Pegasus' eyes welled with tears, but she nodded. Rainbow Dash told me once, the friends are the most important ponies in life. Blast smiled. They're up there with my family. She carefully raised a hoof up, slid her goggles off, throwing them at the filly. Here, we wonder... She stopped and chuckled. Shadowbolts are like family. I always knew Dash would make it to the team. Voice faded as she stood there for a few seconds, until she snapped back to reality. Kitos. Skillu. Nice name, she chuckled, to indicate the goggles with her snout. Hold on to those, kid. Hope they bring you luck like they did for me. She looked at the boughs in the sky, and her wings spread open. She took a galloping start, gritting her teeth in doing so, best to ignore the stabbing pain each step caused her wounds to worsen. The Pegasus jumped into the air, flapping her wings wildly as she felt her body almost give up on her. Why am I thinking of Wings of Fire? Oh, this so needs a rockin' soundtrack. Misty blinked back tears of frustration, anger, and sadness as she dodged the Shadow Chimera once again. The creature flying past with such force, it was doubtful the Pegasus was still alive. She had seen her partner crash with incredible force into the side of the building that had, at one point, Nightmare Moon's balcony attached to her side. Her partner smashed through a support beam and been buried in rubble. There was no way she had survived. After that, with no pony to help her, she had been able to do little but avoid being shredded to pieces by the claws sneaking in a kick or two, which didn't seem to do too much against the creature. Already, her uniform had suffered very close encounters with those shadowy appendages. She sported a few jagged cuts herself. She was also getting tired. Very tired. She knew the emotional drag caused the physical exertion, but her movement still slowed down considerably. The Shadow Chimera snapped at her as she executed a roll to avoid being caught in its maw. The creature turned and followed her as she desperately tried to put some distance between them, but the monster was a fast flyer, possibly even faster than her, despite its bigger size. The Shadowbolt could almost feel the creature's jaws snap at her behind her host when a black burst slammed into its side, making it lose control as the new arrival held onto its wings tightly. Blast! Misty sighed, recognizing her partner. You're still alive! Misty! Grab its other wing and follow my lead! Flash shouted back, holding as tightly as he could to the wing. Nodding, Misty did a quick loop around the creature as it flailed around, looking for an opening. When she saw it, she immediately dove in, grabbing the other wing tight. The monster, with its wings pinned down and deprived of any other means to keep flying, started falling, but Bless started flapping her wings and angling the Chimera. Misty caught on and followed her lead. Between the two Pegasi, acceleration increased considerably. Soon the three were hurling towards the gallows. We had to let go at the last second! Misty shouted over the whipping wind.
This thing is pretty strong. Might be able to pull out the dive otherwise. She concentrated on the ground as it approached. We only have one chance. The ground rose up to meet him. When she sensed there was almost no time left, she went to her partner. Now, blast! Let go! She gave the monster's wing a sharp twist for good measure before letting go. It was only then she saw the blood on her friend's uniform. Only then did she realize that Blast had not spoken back to her at all during their descent. Only then did she see the sickly smile as her partner muttered goodbye. Blast! Misty screamed mixed with a panic roar as the shadow creature's position of his inevitable death. Blast! She screamed again as she dove in a futile attempt to catch up to them. The Chimera and Blast's impact blew apart the gallows, sending pieces of wood flying everywhere, and causing what remained of the structure to collapse in on itself. Misty pulled up hard as the breeze fell up in the air, how skinny as they met stone, before she tumbled head over tail and skidded to a stop. She looked up from the ground, tears in her eyes as she turned to Reckons. Misty, what happened? Soren's voice reached her. Akira looked up to see him approaching. He was splattered with blood, as she could see several nasty cuts, what was visible of his coat beneath his straight uniform. Behind him, flying a bit slower, was a carrot ribbon carrying the lit form of Rainbow Dash. She looked back at the Reckons as her teammate landed. It's... She sobbed as he buried her face in his shoulder. It's Blast! Misty whispered sadly. She took the shadow creature with her. The male shadow bolt looked at the remains of the gallows for a second, or closing his eyes and nuzzling the sobbing Pegasus. Gilda landed next to them, and carefully laid down Rainbow Dash next to them. The last tendril of the Guardian, attached to Nightmare Flare's magic, fell into Nightmare Moon's grasp. The Nightmare grinned. I have them all. With her search over and the delicate work done, it was simple enough to divert her concentration and effortlessly snap the Shadow Chimera's neck while a focus burst of magic. Yeah, I guess not next with my mind. Letting the creature fall harmlessly to the ground, she then looked around. There were no more of the creatures to be found. It seemed that even Spitfire had been taken care of. Perfect. Her head turned toward the balcony, where Twilight Sparkle was standing guard over Nightmare Flare. Let's draw out the lost enemy. Nightmare Moon twisted the tendrils of energy together into a single taut strand. She shaped her magic into a large, razor-edged sword, and with a single swipe, the Guardian's link to her and her sister was broken. The Nightmare took a sharp breath as he felt the stolen power returning to her, as though an enormous weight had been unaware of had lifted from her back. Nightmare Moon could see her sister, with the last bits of armor falling off stir, opening her eyes to stare at Twilight. She looked better already, and if the magic returned to Celia had returned to her, she would be up and about shortly. Nightmare Moon sighed as things quieted down. Here and there, guards ran around under flare-sized orders, helping injured ponies and finding more dead than they would have wanted. A few ponies had been hiding from the moment the fight started, slowly made their way into the open. The Moon Queen shook her head sadly, as the toll their battle excited on the citizens of Canterlot. The plaza was almost completely destroyed. The building that originally held her balcony was missing its entire western wall. The fountain was completely crushed with water still shooting out of an angle. The gallows had been decimated. The floor of the plaza was splattered with blood. Seeing unmoving ponies of all kinds just laying there, tore at her conscience. Her gaze turned to the destroyed gallows, where the remaining shadow bolts and a griffin were approached by Trixie. Looking towards the balcony, she was glad to see that Scootaloo and her friends were okay. Over at Flare's balcony, Celestia was struggling to get up with the aid of Pegasus Twilight. Moon sighed, and again, noticed Jade moving to eliminate Twilight Spark. It was then the whole plaza started shaking. High above them, the sun and moon broke their static watts and slowly drifted apart. Few ponies remaining in the plaza began to shout in panic as the tremor worsened. Something was making its way from the eastern side of the city. The ground shook more violently, as he could see buildings crumbling, while the road cracked and split open, making its way towards them. Every pony looked at each other nervously, into sudden silence. The ground exploded on one side of the street, sending up a cloud of dust, followed by another explosion on the other side of the plaza. Ponies screamed in confusion as everything at street level cracked and bucked as the moving shape of a creature shrouded around the area
raining down damaged buildings and forcing the fleeing ponies to run back to the center of the destroyed plaza. A few of the lanterns adorning the buildings broke, and soon several of the glass structures showed telltale signs of imminent fire. An angry roar rose out of the dust clouds as the shaking suddenly stopped. Ponies shouted and looked around wildly as the area went quiet again. The few inside that remained hovered hesitantly over the settling dust. A hissing sound made every pony freeze in place as the ground rumbled with movements of the titanic creature that slowly snaked around them. Here and there, ponies could see large scales moving through smoke and dust. Nightmare Moon floated back, coils and coils of a serpent-like body, and the guardians slowly revealed themselves, towering over the buildings around them, until the creature, unlike anything anybody had ever seen, except for Trixie, rose above them. The guardian's eyes glowed with power as he glared at all of them. "You dare!" It roared in their minds, as well as completely alien language, that rumbled like thunder all around them. "I have let you crawl over my world for thousands of years, and now you refuse my due. I will rid this world of all of you and feast upon your life energy. I will eat your souls and torture them for eternity." With a wave of scale-covered arm, the dead shadow chimeras were pulled up from where they lay. Some of them were missing entire parts of their body, but that didn't stop the guardian as the remains started convulsing and their forms were reshaped. Nightmare Moon gasped as shadowy forms became clearer, until she could see familiar faces and shapes. Her heart lurched at the painful memories of having destroyed those beings so long ago. Trixie, Big Mac, and Soren stared, Midnight's words returning to them. Last innocent, there were once more princesses around. True, Luna and Celestia were the greatest, but there were more alicorns protecting Equestria with their power than we remember. Their influence is still felt through terms we still use, like North Wind or Spring. The last of the shadows faded away, leaving 4 alicorns, all shorter than Nightmare or Princess Celestia, their coats somehow dulled and muted in color. The newly arrived alicorns looked around in confusion, until one of them settled their eyes on Nightmare Moon. "Luna," Winter whispered.